UAD 3.6 isn't some far off regulatory bedtime story. It's already working its way into pilot programs and lender systems, and if you're not preparing now, you might find yourself scrambling when the deadline hits. In just a moment, I'll be talking with Ken DeFeo from Fannie Mae, one of the people who helped build this new system. We'll cover what's changing, what lenders need to be doing right now, and why your LOS might be your weakest link. So stick around. If you're in the world of collateral risk, this is a conversation you cannot afford to miss.
ACI introduces ACI Sky Workbench, a cutting-edge cloud-based platform designed to streamline URAR appraisal report generation like never before. With seamless workflow integration, automated data management, and built-in compliance, Workbench empowers appraisers to work smarter, faster, and with greater accuracy. Visit aciweb.com for more info. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast with your host, Hal Humphreys.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Appraisal Buzzcast. We're so excited you're joining us. Let me bring back in our host, Hal Humphreys. Hey, Hal, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Jim Morrison. How are you?
Well, I'm very excited. Our guest today, if people are at Valuation Expo, they have seen a lot of them. We are so excited to have him. Let me bring him in. Ken DeFeo. Hey, Ken.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Well, Ken DeFeo is with Fannie Mae, and we will be having him speak at Valuation Expo on Sunday. On Monday, he's speaking the ACI ADI training session. On Tuesday, he's doing on the general session. So we are getting a lot out of Ken. And if you're at Valuation Expo, you're seeing this on Wednesday. So you can't go a day without him. So thank you, Ken, for joining us.
We actually, Ken, thought about just calling this Val Expo, Ken DeFeo, all the time.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be good for attendance.
Ken, for those still brushing up on life, the universe, and everything, give us a lay of the land. What exactly is UAD 3.6, and what problem is it trying to solve?
So, I'll take off my Fannie hat and kind of move it back to the bank. So even back in 2011, when I started on with a bank in California, kept talking digital, like the digital mortgage, right? The problem with the forms today is the rigidness. The data is not easy to get at. You have certain data points that you can get an understanding potentially of some things, but you can't get in depth on them. Like I can tell there might be an ADU. I just don't really know much about the ADU. Going forward, that changes. We need to get to a point where we're able to read that report in the machine world, the digital world, right? So once we get to this point, I know appraisers are looking at this and going, this is way too much. It's way too complex. I think what they don't realize is a lot of it's point and click, right? Depending on the way the software is developed. I don't know how everybody's going to do it differently. But the bottom line is you need to be able to get at and understand the information to really evaluate the risk of the collateral. I think it has many other benefits that I know we'll get into through this, so I won't go too deep into it now. But it's primarily to get us into the digital world.
Yeah. Now you've been in the thick of this, development process pretty much from day one. What was your specific role in shaping UAD 3.6, and are there any particular challenges you remember kind of wrangling with?
Yeah, I came on. I've been at Fannie Mae just 6 years, and the whole 6 years been on this project. A lot of people say, "Boy, that's a long time to be on the one project," but this is a pretty complex thing. The role I came in was to manage the team from Fannie and work directly with the team from Freddie. It's a joint venture, right? We have to come to a lot of alignment. I'd say the challenges really out of this was how deep do you go with the information? When are you going too deep? When are we not doing enough? How much identification of certain items do we really need? What's the right way to identify the items? I would tell you that we did a lot of outreach even before I came on board for this project. The biggest issue from whether it's a lender, whether it's an appraiser, reporting. It's not easy to read the reports today. Let's get that better. But again, to get it just right is a fine balance that's not easy to come to. We think we got a pretty good mix. Will it stay like this forever? Our goal actually is hopefully we're not waiting 15 years again to do an update to something. Let's hope we can actually make this update a little more frequent to actually keep up with the times.
Yeah, I like it. And you mentioned reporting and making the reports easier for people to get their heads around, either machine or human being reading the thing. One of the biggest frustrations I've had throughout my career as a real estate appraiser is when an unintended user gets a hold of the appraisal report, such as a borrower. A lot of times they don't even know where to start. I think this new report is going to be easier for real estate agents and borrowers to understand, which is pretty exciting to help everybody be seeing off the same sheet of music.
Yeah, again, I'll throw out to that point of reviewing, much easier to read. Absolutely.
Yeah. I got an email last week from someone that wants to educate people on the new UAD 3.6 form. I got an email the week before from another person that wants to talk to people about the new form. This isn't just a formatting update. This is no longer a form. It's a philosophical shift in the way we approach the business. There are no more form numbers. There's a report generator is the way I've been describing it. You start, keying the information in, and it builds based on what's necessary to tell the story of that property. Can you talk a little bit about why we needed to make these changes, and what does this mean for the industry long term?
Yeah, I think there's challenges with forms. Again, I'll go back to what I said before with rigidness. It doesn't accommodate things. And anytime you have to do a change, you're doing it across many forms. And that just is not good for the industry. It's not good for the software providers because it's very complicated for them. It's not good for all the understanding that you have to go look for because it changes differently in different places. The goal here was a uniform platform for reporting purposes that can accommodate everything, every property type, every inspection type, whether there's additional information brought in through maybe some other means that's clearly identified in the reporting structure. And then the ease to read it. Feedback initially was the report hindered appraisers from their ability to tell the story. We don't believe that exists anymore. Going forward, you'll be able to tell the story. Now, I know there's some that are saying, well, I think you maybe have gone too far. Well, that's probably open for debate. I think one big thing that everybody has to realize, this is a blank canvas. Not every data point is relative to the market you work in. They may not be data points you even include within your report. We've given you the blank canvas, allow you now to go ahead and fill that out. Use the paint colors you choose. We're not directing on you which colors to use. We're just giving you the canvas. And I think it's very broad and very good. And I think it will really work. I mean, we've gotten some responses from some appraisers just saying, this doesn't matter in my market. Fine. Then guess what? It doesn't, but it does in others. And we have to build this to meet everybody's needs across every mortgage possibility and every part of the country, and even in the territories, which are different than the continental U.S., right? So you had to build something pretty robust.
Yeah, I know in the appendix where you show all of the possible iterations of what can show up in a form, some appraisers have seen that and they freak out. Like, oh my gosh, they're asking for everything. It's like, you're not going to see that ever. You're never going to see the whole thing laid out. It's going to be sections and parts of it.
Appendix C, I think, is the thing that you look at, and that's every possibility. But remember, that's every possibility. No property has every possibility.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not possible to see every possibility in one report, because if it's 2 to 4 family, it's not going to show the single family stuff, right? It's not possible to see all those things in one report. Let's shift gears just a little bit, Ken. We've been talking, you and I, our cadre of instructors that are teaching UAD 3.0, we've been talking to appraisers. Let's shift focus just a little bit and talk about lenders. What are the top 3 things lenders need to start thinking about now to be ready for UAD 3.6?
Number one is system readiness, right? Like the ability to process the information or handle the information. So it starts probably at the LOS. There's messages that we, from our DU system, we send to LOSs. Those messages don't change much. They're actually relatively generic moving forward. That shouldn't be an issue whatsoever. But how do you then move it to next? Some LOSs actually create work in the fulfillment process and create requests. Some don't. Bank I came from, we didn't use it. It was a totally separate system. But just make sure your systems are right, right? Go into either Freddie Mac's webpage, our webpage. Go ahead and go look for the UAD information. We have training, a 4-hour training video that anybody can watch. We have a readiness kit. We have a lot of information in there. They need to start looking at that. And then I would think it's the acceptance of that report, right? Like their ability to bring that back in. So how are you going to process out the report? Whether it's data that you're dealing with and you're doing things, you've created your own rule-based systems, ensuring that you make sure the data points are the same. Most of the critical data points are still the same data points, but there could be some nuanced differences in there. There's certainly a heck of a lot more data points. You could be even more robust in the way that you're handling things. So there's a lot there.
Intercorp, a division of Norman Spencer, has your back. Comprehensive insurance coverage from a team that's always there when you need them. The team at Norman Spencer is ready to roll up our sleeves and dig into your toughest insurance questions. We're committed to appraisers and AMCs. Intercorp's programs are tailored specifically for the appraisal industry. Put our experience to work for you. Please contact Susan Lomeli, Lomeli, at norman-spencer.com to discuss your insurance needs.
So Ken, you just talked about the top 3 things that lenders need to consider. We're talking about systems, we're talking about training, getting yourself ready for UAD 3.6. In the systems world, and lenders know all about this, appraisers not so much. Loan origination systems, LOS software. Some are calling them the next choke point. What should lenders be asking their LOS vendors about today?
So I would tell you, we've not heard from any of the kind of the third-party systems, those that are purchasing that platform from somebody, that they're not going to be ready. But what they're going to have to do is look at the nuances of their systems. If you are a lender, I'm a lender, our LOSs may not be identical, right? Like there's nuances, I think, typically within those. They should look at them, work with them, figure out actually how that's going to look and feel, how it's going to work, how do messages from DU then get moved over into kind of conditional approvals in a sense, to where what type of valuation product type do they need, things along those lines. Those are the things that they're going to have to iron out. I don't think any of those are these big issues, these big hurdles. They should actually work pretty well, but I think that's, we'll see. But I think that's what they really should be working on, is what's it going to look like based off of the way that we function today? How's it going to look going forward? I don't think it's going to be that big a deal, but it could be for some, but I don't think for most.
I think realistically, Ken, some lenders may need to look at their process, their system, and their process in general to kind of iron some things out with the new UAD 3.6 data points. I mean, we're going from plus or minus 400 data points to, sometimes over to 3,000 data points. So that's a big change. Just thinking about your process and how you're going to start the process and export and ingest data throughout the entire mortgage lending process for your bank. Consider all of those things. And along those lines, Ken, have you heard any feedback from folks out there in the world about pain points they didn't see coming, blind spots they didn't consider in early implementation, anything like that? Anything that can help if a lender or an AMC or an LOS platform has not gotten fully through the process, any tips you can give them to avoid?
So we've been in dialogue with most vendors, whether it's a software vendor, the LOS environment, even the I'll call them middlewares, the processing, like the systems that funnel appraisals back and forth, the portals, whatever, however you want to refer to those as. we've been in touch with all of these individuals, these companies, and we're not necessarily seeing a blind spot. We're working with them to remove those blind spots. We've done what we think we can do from the GSE perspective by putting a plethora of information out on our web pages that you can go through. I mean, if you haven't actually gone into our web pages to look at the information, you got to do it. I mean, I know it's eye-opening, and within that eye-opening, there's probably a holy cow, this is what is all of this.
Yeah.
But it's not so much, I think it's a big change because it's a lot of data structure things that create a big change, right? But I think the learning curve on this big change, once you start actually figuring out the system side of it and you start looking at the practical side of it, like reading the appraisal report, I think everybody's going to kind of look at it and go, why didn't we do this a long time ago? This is so much easier to understand and read.
Anytime there's a change, people buck against it. It's the nature of being a human being. You don't like changes. We've been doing it this way for 30 years. Why are we changing now? You know, the old adage of when's the best time to plant a tree? Well, I mean, 20 years ago would have been perfect, but barring that, let's stick it in the ground today. Yeah. All right. So we're producing this ahead of Valuation Expo, but it's going to air in the middle of Valuation Expo. For the lenders who did not get to come to hitting the high notes, to get the kind of deep dive into these conversations, what message would you want to get through to them and every other stakeholder, appraiser, lender, underwriter, whatever, about UAD 3.6? What's the one thing you want them to take away from this podcast to think about going forward?
Well, if you didn't attend Sunday in Vegas, then go look at the training materials. Go take it. There's a 4-hour video, and I get it. Not everybody's got that kind of time just to parse out of their day, but it's important. They need to understand that the structure and the way that it's going to work. The fact is you can take it in 30-minute increments. Like you can go over a couple-week period and block out 30 minutes from your calendar and go look at it. You can go in, it's free. It doesn't cost anything. That goes for appraisers as well. Even though there's education out there, there's a 7-hour course, and then there's this 4-hour piece. Well, they're not quite the same thing, obviously, because of time. Having said that, though, the appraisers need to probably take the bigger, bolder. But you know what? You take that and you want to go back and reference, well, maybe the other piece gives you something to go reference as well. So there's things out there that they can do, but take the training, go look at it, and start reading through some of the materials. You need to download a couple things like Appendix F. That's that roadmap. That is the equivalent to Appendix D today that tells you the data structure and what the expectations are within the reporting structure and how it should be filled out.
Yeah, I was talking to another instructor about teaching the UAD 3.6 class, and this other instructor said, man, if I could just take Appendix F and Appendix C and sit down with an appraiser for an afternoon, they'd be solid after that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information in those things. So, hey, guys, check out the training available. Please feel free to join us at Appraisery Learning. If you want the 7-hour class, we'd love to have you in the class. There are other offerings out there for UAD 3.6 training. Fannie and Freddie have industry training available on their websites. We have industry training available through Enterprise Lender Learning. Get yourself ready for UAD 3.6. If you're not involved in the limited production, don't wait too long to get yourself ready. Don't think everybody else is going to solve all the problems. You're just going to jump right in. Start getting your head around what this new process looks like. Ken, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be here today. Always good to see you. Always good to get an information download from Ken DeFeo. Jim Morrison, are you still with us on the line?
Yeah.
Is there anything else we need to cover today? Are you going to hit us with an anonymous appraiser question?
No, we're going to avoid that for Ken today. But Ken, we really appreciate your time both today on this podcast and all the time you've given us at Valuation Expo. If anybody has FOMO on missing out on all this information and hearing from Ken, they can see him at Appraisal Summit that's coming up September 27th through the 30th. And back in Vegas.
Back in Vegas. We'll all be back in Vegas for the Appraisal Summit. If you did not make it to Val Expo, put it on your calendar for next year. Also, join us in Las Vegas for the summit next month. If we have nothing else, For Jim Morrison and Ken DeFeo, I'm Hal Humphreys, and that is your Appraisal Buzzcast for this week.